What the Vikings do takes about 3 centuries, so it's not very sudden. And the Vikings had a little bit of a cruel edge to them, just for the record, whereas the Arabs just didn't. They weren't so into the cruelty thing. But they had one thing really in common, and that was that they thought of their homeland as merely a starting point, that it was sacred. There was some religious value to it, but from an economic standpoint, from a political standpoint, it wasn't very useful. And the reason is, think about it. What is today Saudi Arabia is the starting point for the Arabs. There are no rivers. Like right there, oh my God, crappy piece of real estate. How do you function with no rivers? Where do you get your water? How do you do agriculture? Like, oh my God. You wouldn't even know the name Saudi Arabia if it wasn't for oil, because the place is basically uninhabitable. And the Arabs kind of saw it that way. They were like, oh God, here I go, another day in river-free land. The Vikings saw Scandinavia the same way. They saw it as a chunk of land that you could get trees from, you could go fishing from, you could raise dairy cows in parts of it, but you couldn't farm it. It's just too cold. And as a result, it was actually really crappy land. So one of the goals, really it's one of 2 goals, that the Vikings had when they began leaving Scandinavia and attacking places like Scotland and Ireland and England and Germany and France and Poland and Spain and Italy and Russia and Lithuania and Estonia and Latvia and Finland. Their goal was to get some agricultural land, to just be able to get out there and work the soil and plant some plants and eat some vegetables, because they were really sick of fish, beef, and cheese wheels. The other thing that the Vikings were really interested in was trade. They really thought, unlike today in the United States, that trade was the pathway to wealth. Right? That your ability to interact with other countries in a peaceful manner where you would exchange goods would generate huge amounts of wealth. Now, one of the reasons why the Vikings turned so violent was they were having a hard time trading with the rest of Europe, because Europe was, 1,200 years ago, extremely poor. By extremely poor, I mean Charlemagne didn't have any gold, so he had to mint all his coins in silver. Like, Europe just didn't have any resources. Paris was a city of 10,000 people, right? Like, UT is 5 times bigger. The Vikings turned a little vicious on their neighbors, not just to grab their land, but also to steal goods worth selling. And one of the reasons they did this was they wanted to be able to trade with homeland. According to the Viking sagas, the Vikings were originally from Persia, and they wanted to go back to Persia and trade with them. But by the time they're getting back to Persia in the 800s, Persia has already been conquered by Muslims. So they're actually arriving in Muslim Persia. And those Muslims not only had street lamps lit up by oil, and not only did they have silk and linen and cotton, but they were experimenting with modern technology like modern medicine and modern agriculture and private property ownership and different ways of doing metal. For example, what the Arabs had realized was that the Indians knew how to make steel, not iron, steel. And so the Arabs would go to India, they'd buy steel ingots from India, and they'd bring it back and they'd make steel tools, steel swords, steel armor. And that gave them an edge on everything. And the Vikings were like, oh my God, we need a piece of this.